Welcome back, everybody. You have found yourself at The Talk from the show. I'm your host, Jiles McCoy, and we have a wonderful show for you tonight. I mean, they're doing these are great, but when you get to have a guest like this on, it makes my heart warm, just like I know it makes your heart warm. And I want to introduce Nick Brown. Nick, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Giles. And you know what? It warms my heart to see you again. I mean, this isn't our first rodeo together, but every time we do this, I feel, just more comfortable. And I love the rapport that you have and the ability to run a very successful and efficient interview. So I, love just hanging out and chatting and getting geeky with you.
Man, I love it. Thank you so much for the kind words. Well, as everyone knows, the home entertainment show, the show, not a show, but the show is coming up June 7th through 9th in Costa Mesa, California. And you guys, SVS, will be live and in living color there. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We were going to have a 2-channel and a home theater system in our demo suite. And, we have some new products that have just dropped within the last month that we'll be showcasing there. And I don't want to overplay it, but they have sort of taken the audio world by storm. There's a lot of interest. There's been a lot of chatter about them. And, I'm just super excited to bring them out to the West Coast because it will be the first time we've had them for public demo anywhere on that side of the country. So we could not be more excited.
That's super cool. Now, before we start getting into the nuts and bolts of things, let's get a little introductions out of the way, right? So for the folks that are out there that might not know who you are, give them a brief, 15, 20 seconds of who I am and who SVS might be.
Absolutely. So SVS started in a Youngstown garage pretty much about 23 years ago, building subwoofers that were sold direct to consumer. Really, the mission of SVS at that point, and what it continues to be, was to deliver a level of performance that really didn't exist, and especially in the subwoofer world at that point. They were astronomically priced, and for what you got for that price, it just was sort of underwhelming. So we started building these subwoofers and taking a much lower margin and getting them to customers direct, cutting out the middleman, and really it put us on the map as sort of the I would say the authority of bass. That was actually our motto for a while. It was the bass
Nice.
authority. And then since that point, we've tried to bring that same mentality to high performance speakers, accessories, wireless audio, where again we're trying to compete with products and brands that are double, triple, quadruple the price of ours. And doing it in a way that also delivers a very full customer experience from the support side, from the ability to upgrade, the policies that we have that make it easy to return and do anything you want to have that sort of total customer experience. That's really what SVS has been about since the beginning. And, we've just now sort of reached another echelon with this most recent speaker launch.
Right on. And then a little about you. I mean, who are you, the face of this company that I guess you make it a faceful company rather than a faceless one?
Yeah, I mean, that one of the things that we believe is to be very sort of transparent and try to have a genuine, authentic presence. And so I joined the company about 10 years ago. I was working for a PR agency repping brands like super high-end brands like Krell. I did some work with Martin Logan, with Paradigm. And so I really sort of entrenched myself in the audio industry working for this agency. And then SBS came along as a client. I sort of saw how much they had their act together, I guess I could say,
Sure.
from an operational standpoint, customer service, the products, reviewed just amazingly. This is the kind of company that I want to build a career out of because they just have everything, really rock solid down to, almost perfection. And so, I jumped and went there. My wife ended up working at the PR agency, taking over as VP, which was also the best thing to ever happen to them. And since that time, I like to think that I contributed quite a bit to helping grow the SVS brand. And, now we do these, lot of virtual engagement, a lot of public events, both with dealers and some of the regional trade shows. And we just try to, again, be very sort of out there. And, our mission is to grow this hobby. We don't look at other brands that are exhibiting there as our competition. We look at the people who haven't done the math that, they can have these amazing audio experiences in their home, whether they're selling for a sound bar or TV speakers. Like, we really want people to understand the joy of high performance audio. So that's what I try to bring to the table and what our company is really, standing for when we do these kind of events.
That's awesome. And you do bring that to the table. I mean, it's astounding the amount of engagement that you have with your customers and fans. You know, I look at a lot of other brands out there, and some do it better than others. But you're always kind of in that top echelon for I think, kind of the best of the best. So, you know, kudos to you. And, you know, I'm sure SVS is super happy that you're helping elevate them, you know, not just to bring in more revenue, but really to help people gain access to these types of products and the knowledge to really elevate the brand. You know, one thing, and this is kind of a I don't want to say non sequitur, but kind of a sideways step here. One thing that I've always thought that's really, really cool that SVS does is the phone consultations with potential customers, right? And this is just not something that's it's not even uncommon. I was going to say it's not common. It's not common. It's not uncommon. It's not even rare. It's like ultra rare. Maybe you could just take just a minute and talk about that.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, our customer service is something that we truly take pride in. And I think, you know, every brand, no matter, you know, your high performance audio, you're selling tires, you're selling widgets, like everyone's like, oh, we got the best customer service. But, you know, we really try to go the extra mile. So in addition to what you were saying, where our service team will sit on the phone with you, go through every receiver setting, making sure you have it completely dialed in. We'll also do two-way video calls. So this actually started during the pandemic, you know, when people weren't able to go to, you know, HiFi dealers and some of the retailers who are generally the ones giving you that kind of support. They were stuck at home. And we started a program where you could just basically chat in or, you know, email in and say, hey, you know, I got some questions about placement. I got questions about how to calibrate my AV receiver, you know, some of the settings on my subwoofer. And we would go and we'd do these two-way, and basically, you know, you could share graphs of your room, you know, you could share just menus from the different components that you're running, and we'll go through that completely. And all of our service members are trained not just in, you know, high performance speakers, subwoofers, and accessories, but like how to calibrate them, how to set it up in an AV receiver, you know, best placement options. You know, we've dealt with, you know, tens of thousands of different scenarios where, you know, pretty much every question you can imagine as far as home theater setup, you know, comes up. And so we've sort of created that backlog of knowledge. And now we try to really offer it in a way that's forward facing and getting people the best performance possible, because there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, with people, especially when some of the, you know, prices that you're paying for this kind of gear, you want to make sure you're having it perform at its best. And, you know, we started this two-way video call thing and some of the support elements as, you know, a way to get people to be more confident when they're setting up these kind of systems.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, for folks that are just joining the talk here with the show, we have Nick from SVS, and we're talking a little bit about the brand, and we're going to get into the presence that you're going to have at the show, as well as the products that you're going to have there in just a minute. But for the folks that are with us, Soda Pops here, Larry, Joseph, Amico, you know, happy to see everyone out in the audience, other folks as well. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those in, and we'll cover those as well as we go through all of this good stuff. But I think, you know, the next topic up for bids, so to speak, is let's talk a little bit about your presence there. And what I think is kind of a game changer that I've seen over the last few years at what traditionally has been kind of a two-channel show. And you know, I've seen this in some other places as well, but I think that you guys bring something almost unique to the situation. So let's talk a little bit about the concept of the two-room system that you're going to have, and what the idea is behind those two rooms.
So it's going to be a single room, just to be 100%
Okay,
transparent, but
single room.
two systems within a single room. And,
Gotcha.
you know, for a long time, when SVS would go to these regional HiFi shows, it's almost, I'd say 95% two channel, sometimes higher. Sometimes we're the only surround sound brand running home theater surround sound demos. And, you know, from our perspective, we were sort of like embracing that idea that, you know, we are the guilty pleasure. We are the ones where, you know, people have heard smooth jazz, they've heard some classical, they've heard, you know, recordings that, you know, were done in a way that just elevates them to like the finest sounding, you know, playback material you can possibly have. And we're going to play some Godzilla versus Kong. We're going to play some Tron. We're going to play some Mission Impossible. We're going to offer a different flavor of audio that is no less immersive and no less exciting than those demos, but it's just a complete departure from that. With these new speakers that we're launching, we've 100% embraced the idea that you want to have the best of both worlds. Even from the perspective of some of the front end equipment we're pairing with them. Previously we just run it all off an AV receiver, but people want to hear them at their best. So, we're using some mid-fi front end equipment, and we're doing some more, I guess you could say, traditional hi-fi demonstration material for the 2-channel system, but certainly they're not traditional in the sense that it's your Diana Kralls and your Eagles of the world. It's just more what
Right.
people who do critical listening would expect from a 2-channel system. And don't get me wrong, there will still be Ninja Turtles, there will still be over-the-top bombastic home theater demos as well, but we know that people there are attending to hear speakers that really can play music at a level that allows them to hear every single detail, to have just that sort of out-of-body experience almost, where it's as close to being next to the artist as possible. And so we fully embrace that. So you're going to get a little bit of a flavor of both of those, where we're switching in between sort of the over-the-top, really exciting, immersive, dynamic home theater demos, but then also having a more high-end 2-channel system where we'll just emphasize our new tower speakers with no subwoofer even, and allowing people to experience that as well.
Now, is the way this is going to be put together, will you have your 2 towers and then you'll use those when you want to play 2-channel music, and then when you're ready for the home theater experience, you add in the surrounds and the center channel and subwoofers and all that kind of stuff? Or is it going to be a different left and right completely, with a completely separate stack of technology for the 2-channel setup?
So the plan as of right now is to have our flagship Ultra Evolution Pinnacles as the front, left, and right for both the home theater and the multi-channel surround sound system. There's an off chance we might bring our Titans, which is the next level down for the home theater, and then run the Pinnacles for 2-channel. But the room's a little bit tight, so I'm not sure that having that much gear is going to work. But we'll absolutely have both 2-channel and home theater to experience. We're just finalizing what the product mix is going to be.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's, if you don't mind, conjecturing just a little bit about what the other components will be for the surround system. I think there's a single center channel in the line right now. Is that right?
Correct. Yep. Ultra Evolution
Okay,
Center. That's a true 3-way center channel. Yep. That's what we'll be running for that.
Okay, so you'll have the 2 towers, you'll have that center, and then you'll have the bookshelves for surrounds. Is that correct? And then heights.
We'll have our
So
Ultra Evolution bookshelves in the rear.
And then what's going to happen for the heights? Are the new Ultra Evolutions available now for that?
Yeah, so we have this very high-tech mounting system where it's basically a set of like 2x6s with hinges that we lean against the walls, because believe it or not, hotels don't love you to drill holes in their walls. So we have these mounts that we sort of lean against the wall, and then we'll have our 2 elevation speakers sort of angling down into the listening room. And a lot of times with these hi-fi shows, we're the only brand running Dolby Atmos material. So we'll have some music that we'll play in Dolby Atmos, as well as some of our home theater demos, but it'll be a 5.2.2 with all the products that you mentioned, and then a pair of our SB3000 sealed cabinet subwoofers running in the home theater system. Everyone's like, oh, why don't you bring the big guys, the 16 Ultras? And like, you got to go into these hotel rooms. That would be such overkill for that it would almost take away from the experience to have it. So no flagship subs for this one, but the SB3000s are, I think, from our line, probably the best bang for the buck you can get in terms of the size and what they're capable of producing from an output, and just speed and transients, accuracy, all those things. So you're going to get a great SVS subwoofer experience too. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, no, they are absolutely beasts. No one will be dissatisfied listening to this system. It always sounds great. I mean, you guys do a wonderful job of setting these up and getting the rooms, which are typically not that great, and that's just how it goes with hotel rooms, right? Tuned to a level where they sound pretty darn good, and you can sit down and be like, okay, I can imagine what this is going to be like. So yeah, folks are saying, man, the SB1000 Pros on the wish list. And I think this is a good segue into the next conversation, right? So the comment is, your new speakers are beautiful. Love the magnetic grills and the shape, right? I bet you've not heard that before. They are.
No, cool. I mean, the magnetic grills, like, it's one of those things where, we're like, it's a part of me, and I shouldn't say this, but it's about time. Like a lot of people love the magnetic grills, and you'd be surprised at how much cost they can add. Which is why on our Prime series, which is our I guess you could say entry level, even though performance wise they're not entry level. We don't have the neodymium magnetic grills, but it's one of those features that we knew we had to step up with this new series. And then I think I also saw a mention of the curved front baffle on the speaker too. That was another thing I think visually really differentiates these from any speakers that we've made, and frankly I think differentiates them from most speakers that are in their price class. If you don't mind me indulging you, what we've done is called acoustically centered time alignment, and the reason we have that angled front baffle is it physically aligns the sonic emanation point of each one of the drivers and the tweeter in space. So if you were to draw a vertical line, the inside part of each one of the cones in the mid ranges in the woofer aligns with the outer edge of the dome tweeter. And by physically aligning those, you're able to ensure that the sounds coming from each one of those drivers arrives at your ear at the exact same instant. And really what that does is just make, the best possible phase coherence that you can, in more layman's terms, it just allows you to have that just super pinpoint accurate imaging and soundstage where, again, it's like you're able to hear sound in space and also just have that just ultimate, again, pinpoint accuracy where you're not deviating at all from the source content and what the artist intended you to hear.
Awesome. So for folks that are just joining, you're watching the show, and I'm your host, Jiles McCoy. Today we're joined by Nick Brown from SVS, and we're talking all things SVS and the show. And right now we're going over the brand new speakers that are going to be there, and some of the design philosophy there. Now, one of the things that I always knock speakers on, right? When I need to give them a knock, this is one of the things that you typically see float up to the top, and that's that they just don't have enough low end to play holistically, right? So you are forced, or at least in my mind, I am forced to supplement with a subwoofer, right? Well, if you look at the pinnacles here, they don't really suffer from that problem, and there's a reason for that. Maybe you can tell everybody why they don't have a problem with bass.
That is a great segue, Giles. You're on the
like
ball
that?
with that one. We're SVS. We know a little bit about subwoofers, and one of our most successful models that we've designed is our 3000 micro subwoofer, which really brought a level of performance to that micro subwoofer category that hadn't existed before. And one of the things that we did with the driver configuration there was create a force balanced array. A lot of micro subwoofers will rely on a passive radiator. So you essentially have one active woofer and then one, what our director of technology, Ed Mullen, likes to refer as a drone cone. It's just, it's not active. It's not powered. It's just basically reacting to the air from the other driver. And that can kind of muddy up the bass, and it can kind of create, just a less crisp speed and transients and just not elevate bass the way it really should. So what we did execute with the new tower speakers is that same force balance array where we have two active woofers in the top of the cabinet and in the lower part of the cabinet, and they're moving in and they're moving out in at the same time. So inside the cabinet, what that creates is a complete cancellation of any kind of vibrational energy, any kind of distortion. There's no vibration whatsoever. Like you can literally balance a nickel on top of the speaker or the 3000 micro, even at full reference volume, because of that cancellation of the drivers moving in and out. When you move outside the cabinet, essentially, because there's two woofers on the back and two woofers on the front of the cabinet, and you have a slight toe in with the two towers, you'll have 8 woofers all firing in different directions throughout the room. And this essentially gives you an effect where it smooths out some of those room modes. There may be, scenarios where you get sort of a boomy spot, and then over here, there's sort of a lack of bass from a null. And by having all these woofers firing in different directions, it just gives you better density of bass waves throughout the listening area. And while, you get that nice saturation of bass waves where it's even, the pinnacle goes down to about 24 hertz, which for most people doing critical music listening, they're not going to need to go much lower than that. I am never, as an SVS employee, going to say you don't need a subwoofer, especially with home theater and that LFE channel. But in HiFi and 2-channel, I feel like a lot of people would be able to get away with no subwoofer by having, this woofer array from our tower speakers in the Ultra Evolution line. So we really wanted to bring something, because to your point, I think a lot of times when you go to these hi-fi shows, that's probably the missing element. It's like they just sparkle in the highs, they have just a nice full mid-range, but when that bass drop came, I was sort of like, left wanting a little bit more. And we didn't want that to be the fact with these new speakers.
Yeah, I haven't done the math for, kind of like cone area and stroke and that stuff for the 4/8s, but that's got to be the equivalent of, a 21 or a 24-inch sub, 8/16 maybe. Yeah, that is a lot of dimensional area and a lot of air being moved. So it's impressive, and I've heard them.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that people are realizing with these new speakers, more so than any speaker that SVS has ever made, is that they really react well to higher performance front end equipment. Separate power amps and preamps, like they will absolutely be able to take that power and turn it into something that you can notice like really significantly. Again, we've typically just run them off AV receivers to make the point that, like, if we can make them sound great with this off the shelf $700 AV receiver, just imagine how great they'll sound with more upscale equipment. Now we're actually having brands reach out to us with these, which is a first, to be like, we want to feature your speakers with our preamps and our amps and our listening room as well. And that was never happening before. So I think the word is starting to get out there a bit that, they will step up to higher end gear and sound that much better. Because again, it's between the woofers and the diamond coated tweeter and some of the other elements, they have a lot of room to, elevate their performance based on what gear you're pairing them with.
Yeah. One thing that I'm really excited for at the show, with you having these speakers there, is it will give me another opportunity to sit down and listen to these flagships and then quickly move to another room so my audio memory doesn't fade too quickly. My audio memory is, it's not perfect. Nobody's is, right? And when I think back to a speaker, I'll remember, oh, it was like brighter, it's kind of neutral, it sounded good, it was weak on the low end, kind of generalities. But it's kind of hard to hold on to those super specifics. But at a show like this, I can go come listen to this here, and then maybe go listen to a pair of Magicos, right? And then do that direct comparison in my head. And I've done that before already. And I tell you what, I mean, these stand up. I love the way that you can absolutely compare these to very, very expensive high-end gear. And, people, I think people will be hard pressed to, behind the sheet, be able to pick out which is which. You know what I mean? They're really good.
That's our hope. And, I think one of the most gratifying moments, and I promise I won't mention any other shows, but we were at a prior audio show, and we had somebody come into our room, and, they had requested a track, and they were like, I just heard this track on an $850,000 system, and I just have to, know what it sounds like on a roughly $7,500 system, $5,000 worth of speakers. We were running about $2,500 in front end equipment. And we put it on, and, I won't hyperbolize too much, but their jaw sort of dropped a little bit, and they're like, this sounds every bit as good, almost. And I imagine if you were running it with the amps and the monoblocks and the other gear that they had up front, like, it could be just as good. And that's the kind of thing where, it sort of validates what our whole approach is. We want to be able to deliver that experience. And to the other point there, one of the great things that I've loved doing with SVS here at these shows, I think a lot of people go into these rooms and it's almost like clinical. You feel like you're nervous to ask a question. You don't want to disrupt everything. People take it very, very seriously. We like to have a lot of fun, and we've started taking requests, because so many of these other rooms that you go into, it's a very curated, like, this is what makes my speakers sound really, really good. This is what we're going to play, over and over and over. And we will not deviate that because we're unsure. And, to be completely honest, like, we've had a couple mishaps where, like, somebody requests a track and it's like, this just doesn't sound very good. But more than anything, I discovered like 20 different demo songs that I would have never known about otherwise had we not been taking requests. And it does make people stick around a little bit longer. But I also feel like when you're going to a show like this, I don't want to hear what you think sounds good. I want to know what I listen to on the reg, and I want to hear and experience it in a way that, is something where I could envision myself doing it at home. And so we've done a little bit more with the requests. We certainly still have our favorite tracks where we're like, this is going to show off the low end, this will show off the transient response. This will show off sort of the tweeter and the, the treble. But, we've done a lot more with taking requests because it's just more fun. People have more fun. And frankly, I think I've learned that our speakers can handle pretty much any genre of music. So it takes some of that risk away and people appreciate it. So it's another thing you can look forward to. Come and bring your requests and put us to the test because, we want to see and learn some new material as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And this comment kind of hits close to home for me. I hardly play audiophile tracks, right? And I think that's an interesting point of view, both at shows and at home, right? So when you can go into a room and hear, when I can hear something that's actually being played on the radio right now at a hi-fi show, I'm like, oh, that's touched my heart. I love it, right? If I
Yeah.
can go in here, a little Doja Cat or something, and maybe it's not going to be the best recorded music or the most dynamic, but man, I like popular music too. That's what I listen to at home. And I pull out those audiophile tracks when I need to do critical listening, but
Right.
that's not what I listen to for fun. So I like for that to translate over.
And I saw a comment. We will have the Rammstein concert. That is a favorite, a late end of the day favorite. We do the Rammstein live in Prague, I believe it is. So that will be there. And we'll have some new tricks up our sleeves too. So we're very excited about showcasing some new material with some new speakers.
That's outstanding. All right. So for folks that are just joining us, we're talking about the show that's coming up here in June. It's very exciting. And let me see if I can remember. So it's going to be June 7th through June 9th in Costa Mesa. It's going to be at 3050 Bristol Street for those that specifically want to know. And SVS is going to be there with a room demoing both 2-channel and multi-channel entertainment. Now, from a multi-channel point of view, any new movies going to make the cut this time? Maybe a little Dune 2 could be in there because I would love to see some of those scenes.
I mean, is it on Blu-ray yet? If it is, then it'll be there. I haven't shopped it. As you know, our resident cinephile is Larry Magoo, and he has some new tricks up his sleeve. Like I was saying, I believe he got the new Abyss, which I'm very excited to hear about. It's sort of a remastered version of the original. True Lies, which I don't know what to expect. I'm not sure what scene from True Lies would really resonate, but I know that's another disc that he pulled up. And if we can get Dune there, then I would absolutely love to have some Dune because that most recent one is just basically an entire demo, the whole movie practically.
The movie's so good. So good. Yeah. And the two that you just called out, True Lies and The Abyss, those had been on everyone's want list for ever. So they finally got released and people have gone nuts with those. Hey, we have the showrunner herself on right now. And she says specifically June 7th through 9th. Let me do this. Coming to you June 7th through 9th at the Hilton Orange County. And you can get your tickets at theshownow.com. Use code Ambassador5 for a discount to make it even more palatable. When you save money, you can spend it on more hi-fi.
That is a voice made for radio right there. That is
or something. It's something. I feel like I'm a little hoarse. Hopefully that's not coming through. But I feel like I've been talking a lot for the last little while. So now everybody out there, we're getting close on time, right? We have a few more minutes to hang out together. And if you do have questions, please get those in. The last thing I wanted to talk through, Nick, before I give it to you for a couple of different areas to discuss, is that product line for the Ultra Evolutions, right? So if you look at the Pinnacle, that's what is it, quad 8s and dual 6.5s and a tweeter, but there are multiple tower sizes that scale down from there. Maybe you can touch on that just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're all very similar in terms of their industrial design. Like they have the same shape, same driver array. It just goes from basically an 8 to a 6 and a 4 in terms of the woofer size, and then corresponding mid ranges get a little bit smaller as well. We did that because of one, we wanted to hit certain prices that would reach into different levels of what people could invest, but also I view the Pinnacles as sort of the ultimate 2-channel speaker. And then the Titans and the Towers are going to be sort of for those home theater rooms where you're supporting them with subwoofers and a lot more speakers. So it was important for us to have a little bit more options for those. And when we did our original Ultra series, the flagship tower, it was a bit divisive. I mean, it had dual 8s on the bottom of the cabinet, but it needed quite a bit of room to breathe around it. It couldn't go close to boundaries. So by having the design that we do with the current towers, there's actually a natural curve put into the back of the speakers. So they have, about 4 to 6 inches already built in from the wall, even if you have them shoved up very close to a boundary. And then obviously they'll benefit if you pull them out 12, 16 inches. But we wanted to give placement flexibility. So if people are setting up a home theater or a hi-fi system, they'd have a lot of options there. They all share the same. And actually all the speakers throughout the line share the diamond coated aluminum dome tweeter. And what we've done is essentially take our original aluminum dome tweeter and all the benefits of it. Aluminum's very lightweight, it's very rigid. But people who have listened to a lot of different tweeters, metal dome tweeters can have certain reputations for maybe not being as warm, be even a little bit, sibilant when they get to certain, high frequencies. By applying this layer of diamond coating, it's essentially diamond carbon through a process called vapor deposition. You essentially grow diamond carbon on the outside of the tweeter. It raises the breakup frequency by making it that much more rigid. So you can hit up to about 40,000 hertz without having any sort of breakup or any sort of harshness. And that's one of the biggest things that I think people notice about when they first hear these, who have experienced the original Ultra series, is, both in the towers, the center and the bookshelves, is just that sort of airy, effervescent, high frequency extension that they're able to achieve. But it also allows you to blend it a little bit more smoothly with the mid-range too. So that was a big departure with these new towers in terms of having that tweeter design. And even with all of those advancements, they're still timbre matched, so you can mix those with the Prime, with the original Ultra series. But we wanted to make sure that we kept the same similar voicing, but really up to the performance in both the high frequencies with this diamond coated tweeter, as well as the lows with the force balance woofer array. And then obviously the time alignment story helps you hit that sort of imaging and soundstage side as well. So we're never going to do a refresh. It's always going to be a reimagination of a speaker line or a subwoofer line. And I think this sort of touches on that ideal that we really want to bring something completely fresh and new. That's a huge departure from what we did originally.
That's outstanding. So has anyone ordered 7 or 9 of the pinnacles to do a full bed layer in pinnacles all the way around?
I think the biggest order we did have somebody buy both the pinnacles and Titans, because they were going to use the pinnacles for the front left and right and the Titans for the rear left and right, and then the center channel. So I think the most we've done is 5 of them, 4 towers in a center channel. So we're still waiting on that first, 7 channels of pinnacles all around. But I have to say there have been people who, have certainly kicked the tires on the idea. But when we have that mega system, I'll be reaching out to that person. We'll try to do a featured system on our site, which will help tell their story a bit.
That would be outstanding. I'd love to see that. All right, so to close things up, I'm going to put you on the spot a bit and just ask you if there's one thing about SVS or your products or anything else that you want people to know that might not be something that gets discussed a lot in these kinds of interviews. What would that be? So what is the secret goodness of SVS that isn't really discussed a lot?
I mean, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I feel like it's how genuine we are from the perspective of, like, the people behind the brands, from our happy hour, which I'm going to throw a little teaser out. We're doing one tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern time on the SVS YouTube and Facebook. You'll be able to see our happy hours and have the opportunity to win some giveaways. But it's like that sort of outgoingness, and it's all sort of spearheaded by our CEO, Gary Yakubian, who's been in the industry a very, very long time, more longer than I think he even cares to admit. But, we bring that forward because we all believe so much in what we're doing as a brand in terms of, performance for the price with the products, the way we take care of customers, the policies we have that make it easy to be a long-term owner and to upgrade your products, just the general support side, plus the, the product performance, and even bringing new innovations like the subwoofer app. We were one of the first to do that and first to bring this time alignment to this price level. We really stand behind what we're trying to do. And not only that, we want to talk about it. We want to bring it out there to people, and we want people to get excited about the experiences that these kind of things can create and make them know that you don't have to like mortgage your house to get there. And if we can do that, then we firmly believe that it's going to benefit every brand in our industry. And I love what folks like you and the Home Entertainment Show are doing by even having these kind of platforms to allow brands to sort of share what's special about them and why they why people should care what they're doing. Because frankly, like if you're not doing this kind of thing, they may not ever do it on their own. And it's all about just sort of getting the word out about how fun and exciting this hobby can be, both from music and movie and content perspective, but also just the hobby itself, like being interested in upgrading and fidelity and the technical side of it. Like it's almost split into two camps, like the people who are obsessed with the content and then the people who are obsessed with the tweaking. And there's certainly a middle ground there, but we really try to reach both those people by having the edutainment, which provides that level of tips and expertise, but also like the content side where it's like, we love this movie, we'll recommend this as a great bass demo or this for a great surround sound demo. And that's probably the most long-winded answer that you've ever gotten to a question that was probably meant to be really short, but it speaks to just the passion that I think everyone at SVS has to grow grow this hobby both in person and virtually.
That was exactly the right length of answer. So greatly appreciated. Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure as always.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Thank you to Joe and Larry and Soda Pop and Mike and all the people who are commenting as well. I know a lot of those folks, and they're huge ambassadors for this space as well. So keep doing what you're doing as well at Jiles. I can't say enough about what you're contributing. We can't wait to be out in Costa Mesa. Hopefully I'll be able to grab a beer with you and some of the folks that are there because we'll be looking to have some fun off hours too.
Absolutely. So everybody remember June 7th through 9th at the Hilton Orange County in Costa Mesa. You're going to have the show. You can get your room and your tickets at theshownow.com. And remember to use Ambassador 5 as your code for a little discount there to make it even easier to gain access to a wonderful show. It's going to be absolutely stunning. And remember, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things. And tomorrow, join SVS. Like, subscribe, ring the bell there as well, and get even more entertainment for your YouTube minute. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you guys in the next one.
Happy listening.